Hello YouTubers, this is the noobifier. I had an opportunity to go to Citizencon this year. Just like last year, what I've done is I've taken every single one of the breakdowns for every single panel and put them into this one video. Think of this like an audiobook that you can play when you're driving home from work, just to get caught up with everything. And of course, it might be fun to listen to this in a year just before next Citizencon. Timestamps are in the description. Please enjoy.
We begin on day 1, panel 1, Brave New Worlds. The Brave New Worlds section was further broken down into other sections, each hosted by a team lead. First up on deck was Monsieur Benoit Beausejour, who's the Chief Technology Officer at CIG. He's a fellow Canadian and works at Montreal within Turbulent Studios. Benoit first spoke about the history of planet tech and how meshing would allow the needed large number of points of interest. Life to lifelessness, but procedurally generated, complete biomes with flora and fauna. Outposts and points of interest are currently hand-designed and hand-placed, but this is completely unable to satisfy the variation and quantity that is required. With outposts and installations, they would need to be procedural. This updated total world building tool is called the Genesis system, which is a nice callback to Star Trek. The base layer or surface is first, and it's generated based on a wide range of feature data points. We would call these metadata, which is a fancy way of saying data about data. The laws of natural creation is the data-driven system that's held together by rules and hierarchy. Based on my 15 years experience as a geospatial engineer, I've interpreted this in the most simple form for you, but I've added a little bit more information where necessary. CIG has researched and then created a detailed set of topology rules that will take numerous needed categories and use this to define the surface configuration of a world automatically. In the real world, this would be your topology layer, your soils value layer, your water level, your plasticity, trafficability, surface composition. This has been called procedurally generated planet tech in the past, but that name has been replaced by Genesis, which is next, and an even more powerful tool set, as you will come to see. Genesis takes into consideration many more values and has a much more rigorous output, resulting in an even better final planet. This planet mimics reality better, above and below the surface. The system can and will choose surface category, surface configuration, water type, and others based on location, slope, altitude, and elevation. The system will choose the correct biome for the location based on the type of planet that would be in that system, which varies based on how close or far it might be from a star, its orbital distance, and the planet tilt. Some of our planets in Star Citizen solar system have been impacted by war or industry, and these would receive special treatment and special data values. This is space after all, so there is no reason for everything to mimic what we have seen on Earth. It's sci-fi. We want variation. We want craziness. Proximity to the star would change everything. Venus, Earth, and Mars, for example, are all unique based on these factors. Also, with the soil composition, what makes up the mass. And with Genesis, so will the planets in our simulated solar system. They continue to explain that not only the surface, but the subsurface dressing was automated, and that has ramifications for trafficability, industry, harvesting, farming, and wildlife. The legacy planet tech systems were dictated by only a handful of rules when compared to Genesis. So now when geology type, soil depth, soil quality, etc. are added, you can see how this supports all of the activities that us citizens plan to do better. And remember, the point is automation. We expect a wide variation of planets and locations to explore at a scale that is simply unable to be achieved unless it's automated. The system has been improved to blend the transitions more seamlessly, which is a task that was also done manually in the past by a programmer. Bedrock, soil cover, and snow are the main parts that define the surface, but also tracking the vitality plus other factors. The system will not just place trees, but place trees where the trees would naturally want to be based on the parameters that the developer set for the tree. Which is just good, so cool. And this is how they described it, and then they went into further detail. Genesis would produce grasses in an open area of fertile ground. Genesis would produce a swamp, a forest, a desert, or tundra if it was appropriate based on the data, based on where the system thinks is best for that feature. A very cold location won't support vegetation well, and this will be naturally snow-covered. And this doesn't mean that there's no life, but it will further limit the type of life and the type of activities that this place would support. Rich soils, high moisture with lots of sunlight would result in trees being placed, and the size and vitality of the resulting forest would change based on how suitable the location is and how suitable the location continues to be. The The system has a robust calculation to faithfully blend the transition space between areas, and I'm only lightly scratching the surface of this topic with a simple set of examples. Genesis, or a system with the detail and rigor of Genesis, is the only way that we would have the quality and volume of locations for the universe. The legacy planets and moons were procedurally made to a point, but then were crafted and polished manually, extremely time-consuming. Later in this presentation, they explained how Genesis also was aware of reputation, factions, law and lawlessness, corporate ownership. With these data points, they could also factor how to populate thousands of points of interest automatically. Genesis might decide to build a settlement, a small farm, a raider chop shop, or a trade post. Who live there, the condition of the location, and the types of activity are baked in based on the data, and they promised more information later in the presentation. Placing and deciding upon the types of trees in a location is based on the dominance in several categories. Some trees, such as ferns, are less dominant than, let's say, a redwood in a very bright sunlight condition. That doesn't mean that the ferns are going to be missing from anywhere that there's redwood, it's just that the redwood in the area that's suitable for the redwood would be dominant, and vice versa if the situation changes. In that same area, a factor such as soil quality might favor the fern instead, making it more dominant, with the expected results. Genesis will populate this, and the team then reminded us of scope, scale of populating a planet, but it has to be believable in density. So they addressed that too with some optimization, and some of the demos were really crazy. By maintaining a growing library of assets, each with preference and dominance, Genesis will build and continue to iterate upon our highly detailed worlds with an appropriate surface configuration, again, automatically. Spend 10 years building a tool, and then it can build you thousands of worlds at the push of a button. At a planetary scale, you're going to get diversity in biomes, not because someone painted it that way, but because the total topology solution makes it so. Trees, rocks, hydrology, soil type, and configuration are placed and then blended. I have purposely allocated a little bit more detail in describing the first panel of day 1 than I would normally do in a summary format, because this is something that I'm extremely familiar with and the information is quite important. We continue with the next stage. Soil type and quality have ramifications for suitability of agriculture and other factors. What is planted will be chosen based on what is there above and below the surface. They went on to discuss rock density and frequency, which, with all of the ramifications that would have for mining and other forms of resource gathering, type, quantity, and quality of the material and the mineral is selected the same way to coincide with the area. Historically, people began to know where to look for gold because of the situation. The situation mimicked another place that they knew gold was there. So not only do you have your sensor, but as you're going and flying over, you can say, that is where I might find aluminum, and it looks like it'll be good quality. These topology rules also work for wildlife in the air, on the surface, in the water. All of these become more than just a set of dressings, and they become a huge part of the story. With better control over cliffs and slopes, Genesis will change where and how what will be placed. Trees also have more metadata, an age data field, which will dictate size based on the state of growth, but it'll also have a quality asset based on their life cycle. Watering is rain, and rain is part of the weather, which is the next subject. Weather is simulated and modeled on a global scale, but rather than being scripted by some narrative team, the weather that we see is driven by all of the underlying factors. We will see more rain in a rainforest, not just because it's a rainforest, but because of the set of circumstances in that location which favor rain. So it becomes a rainforest. The rain, soil, and factors are why that forest is there. The weather over a desert is why the location has different vegetation, and then this is based on where it is on the planet, where the planet is around its orbit of the star. The clouds, the day-night cycles, the winds, and even storms exist because of the data and the rules. We were shown many examples before and after which highlighted better fidelity from orbit all the way down to the player on their belly on the ground in the prone. The resulting planet stands up to close scrutiny and looks great at any distance. Historically, tiling results in visual lines on the texture surface when viewed from a distance. Genesis is able to place and blend better to achieve zero visual striping and zero lines. The planet content team was next. The planet content is the subcomponent that drives what's being placed where that I spoke about earlier. The developers demonstrated some examples of what happens in a higher moisture area. When the title Swamps was posted on the main screen, the entire hall erupted in a cheer. This segment demonstrated the newest addition to the library. The swamp needs land and waterborne foliage, which is now built into the library. We were shown examples of these assets at various sizes and states of development. We were then reminded that Genesis would know how to place them automatically. Procedural size, type, and density once again. Water injection was next. Water injection is how water interacts with the player, the wind, and even the wake of a passing vehicle. To demonstrate this, we were shown a video clip of a set of logs floating in the water, which was already great, and then a player walked and pushed through them, and the logs were pushed aside in a realistic manner with realistic ripples being formed around the player, and all of this was just built into the engine. We were shown how a new set of assets was needed to create a convincing jungle area, and then we were shown the work that was done to create the redwood forest biome. This would occur naturally anywhere where there was less humidity and heat compared to the jungle. The redwood will grow dense and tall, light shines through the canopy, and of course, the developers paid homage to Star Wars. As part of this demo, we had hover bikes speeding between the trees over thick ground cover and grass. The only thing missing was hip-sized teddy bears saying yub yub. They said they've unified how all of the foliage assets react with wind, the player's jet wash, which will be rendered on the GPU instead to balance the load. Location density was the next subject. Where people live and what they live in is part of the Genesis process. Legacy handcrafted assets are time-consuming to make and place. Of course, they lack the quantity and variation needed to support higher player counts. With the goal of having many POIs for us to explore at intervals of approximately 100 kilometers across the surface, that has to be automated. Legacy planets have about 10 permanent. Genesis will place thousands per planet. PY locations will be selected based on the area, similar to how soil, vegetation, and hydrology are. Genesis will consider local resources, law, and factions, so in a location rich in resources with a corporate-controlled area, you'll likely have a corporate outpost with good security, and it's kept in a good state of upkeep. That location might make sense to have a refinery nearby, which will need to be close to water on level ground in a clearing. Further, you might need a small farm, and the crop that's being cultivated would be based on what the soil can support at the location. When placing the same location with the same set of parameters but in Pyro, that would be tweaked to suit the unique changes. The NPCs and services available at that new location would feel appropriate to the location, and of course, based on your reputation, you may not even be welcome. Clusters of these assets make up larger locations, and clusters of clusters make up what is being called a sector. A sector can be made up of over 100 locations, and of course, at a planetary scale, there would be an average of around 3,000 locations. A system with 5 planets might have 15,000 points of interest to support you, your org, and for you to explore. So armed with this new information, it's no wonder why the developers have been working to automate the process at the Fidelity rather than just building it. Francesco was next to discuss how the topology can influence how items are being placed, but also how the updated day-night cycles will be implemented. He would also touch slightly on player-created locations in some detail, but based on homesteads and stations, that's actually a topic that's covered on day 2. Locations need to be populated and come to life. NPCs now operate based on a much more detailed set of parameters. What can be perceived by the NPC is based on light, sound, and cover. When it's dark, the NPC is less likely to understand what's going on. They may choose to activate their flashlight or turn on a light, an outdoor light, to improve this. Some NPCs may have a pet as a companion on patrol, resulting in an overall augmented awareness based on the pet's senses and their ability to see better in the dark. Emergent cover was the next topic, and this is fully modeled, where the NPC won't only see with a field of view, but will also understand the objects that are being seen. And this is the backbone which will allow the NPC to more realistically offer resistance. Boulders, walls, and other fixed items are all seen as valid objects to be used as cover, but also there are movable objects such as a rover or a buggy. Those can be identified as well and can be used. Moving a vehicle into an area will change how the NPCs might move. And then during the demonstration, we were shown how Maelstrom allows for the destruction of cover. Destroying a wall with a grenade or with sustained gunfire drastically changes the cover and how the NPC evaluates the total available cover options within an area. Phase 4 of this panel covers how light is being coded. Light sources, fog, dust, and particles all have a direct influence on how things look. Using ray tracing tech, the visual quality and ambience is being improved while being more economical on the system resources. The remainder of this panel on day 1 spoke about managing system resources while achieving the best looking shine, reflection, and light within a scene. Through various demos, we could see before and after improvements of the new tech. Then we were on to sound and how it's managed in the game, being a part of the player immersion. Like light, sound interacts and bounces off of objects. So then they have Star Audio. Star Audio is able to produce and propagate how the player hears within the game. They've modeled the Doppler effect in-game, which is a pitch shift based on location and speed of the object. Weapon sounds would be completely different from the shooter or the target's perspective. They demoed how a target would hear incoming sniper fire. That's the zip-snap sound that the round comes with as the target is killed, and shortly after, you can hear the shot based on the distance, which won't help the target at all because the target is already dead, but at least the rest of the crew can hear and then scatter for cover. They demoed this with several huge explosions from various distances. Shockwaves and sounds will vary based on air temperature and atmospheric pressure. Then we were treated to a segment that had to do with the weather. Weather is also being fully modeled, as I said, within Genesis, and this is also procedurally generated. We were shown a demo where the clouds evolved naturally and then grew based on an incoming storm. The storm occurs not because of an artificial trigger, but because the conditions at that location were correct to create a storm. After becoming darker, the wind increased, the temperature dropped, and then as the weather front finally arrived, wetting everything down while reducing the player's sight distances, this particular outpost started to sway in the wind, but it was more than just the looks of the storm. Things were being hit by lightning and destroyed. The weather directly impacted flight as the player attempted to get into orbit. The reduced temperature impacted the suit and presented the player with a more difficult situation. Taking off with reduced visibility, high wind, was very cool to see on the screen, but the situation took a turn for the worse when one of the ships was struck in midair by lightning, resulting in what we would assume was a fatal crash. They summarized the 5 panels with a nice outro explaining how this dynamic system will allow them to populate full-scale planets brought to life with people, creatures, and locations. Genesis is the set of tools that will procedurally generate worlds in Star Citizen at the highest quality quickly. And this concludes my summary of the first panel from Citizencon 2024. This is panel 2 of day 1, Social of the Verse. Please do me a favor and link this to someone who you might know. Let's do this. Benoit was once again on deck to take us through this new update. He thanked the community for tech testing for server meshing and other features that are being developed. An MMO needs social support, which has been lacking since 3.0, which was released such a long time ago. Social gameplay is something that I've been an advocate for about 9 years, honestly. The social tools are for all players and will evolve to support the needs of the player base. Reputation will be tracked and it's key to our online experience. When you join an org, your reputation there will be 0 and it'll grow as you conform to the org rules and do jobs well. That's a generalization. They went into great detail and granularity about how that'll actually happen. Managing a party list is currently done on the oldest app within the Mobiglass, and there's another list in orgs, there's another list in Spectrum, and one in the game launcher menu. These will be consolidated across all systems with the new Mobiglass app. The biggest change there is the removal of the ATC from your friends list, which means you can actually have no friends in the verse. Spectrum friends will be mirrored with game friends, and you can see game activity in both places. You can add notes to friends such as "We met on day 2 of Citizencon," or "That's the player that I helped learn how to take off and land in November." Notes will aid you to manage your larger friends list. There's an add favorites option and a favorites list. There's going to be a block list, which will hide and prevent these members from contacting you. There's a kill on sight list. In the future, the actual org itself can have a global affiliation or hostility to an entire org, which is cool. And then there's a report feature if things get very, very bad. And on the subject of people on computers trying to harass you and ruin your fucking day, I'm sure if you read the terms of service, there's probably a clause there talking about how your in-game chatting is logged. The takeaway here, ladies and gentlemen, is if you absolutely need to harass people in this manner, the least smart place to do it would be in this game attached to your expensive fleet. You're going to lose access to Spectrum, your fleet, the game, and if you think the moderation team over there has a 3-strike rule, go ahead and test it out for yourself. They don't and won't. I'll see you in 20 years when your ban finally runs out, and we're all playing Star Citizen 2. We're on the verge of needing much larger parties, so they are preparing for this. You'll be able to search within the friends list. You're going to be able to see who is in what vehicle and what seat of the vehicle in the party. Streamer mode will be an option which will hide the names and you can be a little bit more discreet. There are other features, but that's the big one. Tab 2 within the new app is the Party Finder. Party Finder finds new party members who are online in your server, and they don't necessarily need to be part of your friends list. It sounds pretty easy and cool. You select the type of job you need help with or want to do, and you put out a general request. You set the rules. You can accept or reject new members based on their reputation, which is nice. Chat window will have more options, and there's a new tab with more customized views. You can have multiple chat windows open. They showed off a demo with a new set of slash commands, and like I said, you can directly message individuals. A contact can be linked to others in a message. You can pin a location on the star map and then link that to others in a message. A specific item can be linked, and that can be posted and sent to others in messages. Sean was invited to talk about FOIP and VoIP. Sean said that they added some features such as the ability to send a selfie picture and or place video voice calls. They showed off a pretty fun demo that I might put at the end of this in its entirety. Head tracking is improved with head rotation. They posted up a second demo that you can probably see running in the background now. Some mouth positions didn't work out very well, but that's been fixed, so now you can squint and you can frown better. Low light performance was also improved. You have FOIP active in the character customizer. Your preview will animate based on the webcam. Ben said audio loss is being addressed, and there's an overhaul to the voice server. There's going to be an icon that you can see that'll tell you when you're transmitting. Sean was removed from the party by being kicked by Ben. So funny. They then posted some info about the guide system. It's been around for some time, but you will now be able to access it in-game. If you meet the requirements, you can guide, and there are rewards for helping other people. Beacons, trust, and ratings are the backbone of this newer guide system. You can create a guide beacon to offer help, and you can create a guide beacon to request help. If you abuse the beacon system, you're going to lose reputation, and your beacon will come with a lower and lower rating, and eventually, people won't want to help you or talk to you. And that is the red zone of the help system. It's very difficult to get out of the red zone. Trust always works both ways to protect both sides. They broke down into player organizations. Ben said that his ideas have been around for many years and they've been waiting for the right time to add them. He's been waiting Ben, and now he says that he is Action Ben. Orgs need an identity. Icons, brandings, and other factors were touched on. NPC factions actually have their own orgs just like players. Guilds are groups of factions. Reputation is critical, as I said many times so far. Orgless players looking to join or org shoppers have more filters and tabs to focus on the growing list of orgs. There's no reason to or not be part of several orgs. Org admins will be able to post important messages and populate and maintain an org calendar for planning events and training. You can still choose to be in a main or alternate org. You're going to be able to set your org tag, and if you are in multiple orgs, you will be able to see all of the org calendars overlapped at the same time. Org leaders will be able to choose an org goal and an org alignment. Members will be able to benefit from the org based on their loyalty. Changing your main org will reset you to 0. Think of loyalty and reputation as how much time you have in the org. The leader can see this value and then use it for whatever they want. Members' tags can be used to set permissions, ranks, and roles. Orgs may work together, and sometimes entire orgs are at odds. So they're adding alliances, and you'll be able to declare war on another org. Both orgs need to agree to an alliance, and this owns up to more features such as special chat and special calendar functions. While you're out and about, neutrals are white, party members are blue, org are dark green, alliances show up as pale green, the kill list are red or orange, and they teased the ability to adjust this for colorblind support. They showed off a demo, which I will show at the end. That's it. Thank you very much. Hello, YouTubers. This is noobifier. Prepare yourself for panel 3 of day 1, the cosplay competition. Here we go. There were 3 judges from CIG. There were 4 categories that could be won. There were competitors, obviously. Shirley, a bounty hunter. Hindroza, a member of the advocacy. Fiberfin, a miner. And not like the age thing, but like the job of a miner. Cat Goddess was dressed as Molly. Omin Gerst was a Xi'an diplomat. Really cool. Little Drift Boy as Garmin Humble. Dana was dressed as a Pico. Carlito was dressed as a Pico, and Kinshadow was a Duster. And as a secondary prize, I suppose. The two people that were walking around the convention center wearing nothing but a med gown won 3D printed med pens. The Xi'an Diplomat won Best of Show. The Big Pico won Best Performance. Garmin Humble won Most Creative. And the Duster won the Audience Favorite. Our Panel 4 Day 1 called Dress to Kill. Here we go. In 2019, they added player customization. Armor and clothing can help you perform the job you'd like to do in a particular way. You decide how you want to play, and then you search for the specialized items that'll help you to do that better. Mixing clothing and armor are how this will be done, and of course, this is being called Starware, right? Creativity. If you're tired of choosing between clothing and armor, Starware will be the answer. Jackets over clothing? No problem. Clothing and their armor stats will match what they look like, so woolen PJs are going to offer little protection compared to a thick set of leather pants. Some items have EVA thrusters in various capabilities. Some items will not be space-worthy. We were shown one of many specializations, the leader. Holstering weapons will be possible. Concealing weapons will be possible. If you load down too much, your flight performance will be hindered because you're cumbersome. So you can lighten up or stay light to begin with and then restore your flight characteristics. The leader will have limited armor but are light and mobile. The pilot was next. The pilot's helmet has a pilot visor, resulting in the required information being visible, a better HUD if you will. The light suit has no performance hit, and in some cases can help with G-forces. They also have the better performing EVA thrusters. The driver is a slight variation of the pilot, with a focus on driving, of course, the lower protection and weaker EVA performance. The tracker is basically a Mandalorian. There is a heavy tracker option with a powerful scanner, but using it was said to be as good as a sonar ping on a submarine. You won't be able to blend in anymore, and people will know that you're out there, but it's an option. The tank is heavy and cumbersome, but it can take shots. It comes with reduced full force reactions, that's that knockdown that you would normally see, and cannot be knocked down by small arms fire like others. You move more slowly, you get tired easily, and you cannot drive or pilot a craft. Sniper was next with an obvious focus and set of benefits. Light stealth armor will result in 0 radar signature, no flight restrictions, and you have minimal protection, but they're very hard to find. And then we got a real treat, a new mission, a boss fight if you will. You can become Moadib. Team up and kill a sandworm. The creatures come in various sizes. You have to kill some babies and then maybe an adult will arrive. You kill some adults and then an apex will arrive. With like 1 billion hit points, that was an estimate, the group has its work cut out for itself. Ruthless, the worm is able to knock ships out of the sky like a baseball bat, crush land vehicles, but if you're victorious, you have 2 unique harvestables, its teeth and its pearls. You basically salvage the corpse after it's been dispatched, and the corpse is ready to be climbed all over so you can take selfies. To start the mission, you're going to need to drive over the surface to irritate the small worms, and so on and so on. There's no visual health bar of the worm, but you will be able to tell how close to killing it you are by its visual condition. The Valkar is planned, and they want to add it as soon as possible as a revolving mission for you. Sandworms, water worms, cave worms. These are all planned variants. Are they available in the store with Warbond and LTI? No. That's it. 5 Citizencon Beyond Pyro. Here's what you need to know. Ian Leyland, creative director, was on deck to speak to us about the next star systems. He began by highlighting the work done on the musical scoring in general by Pedro. We all know that all that's going to be like chef's kiss level stuff. Good stuff. We have 3 known, which are Stanton, Pyro, and Nyx. My second favorite location, Levski, was reimagined onto a more shattered asteroid that we might remember. Guesses in the comments of what my favorite location is. Levski and Delamar were placeholders put into Stanton for testing, and they were nicknamed Lagski because of horrible non-optimized effects that it had on the server. This, among many things, were removed to increase performance, and that was said that it should be put into Nyx in the future. Between Nyx 2 and Nyx 3, we will have a new asteroid called Delamar, a 0G location, and on it, or through it I should say, is Levski. Industrial and Spartan, Levski was formed on the inner cavity left by mining. Instead of being cone-shaped like we remember, there's a cylinder cut clear through the asteroid. Updated and fresh, the topside ring now incorporates various landing pads and other things. The inner cavity has hangar doors in a ring. They were very cheeky and teased the Kraken partially covered by shadow within this cylinder, gorillas in the mist, if you will. The tunnels are home to the People's Republic, refugees, and the very low working class. This panel was basically some information being said while a visual buffet of 4K video was shown to the audience. My plan is to stitch all the good stuff together at the end for you to see. There's a vertical offloading cargo grid for offloading hull ships, and this is also being added to space stations. They've teased cargo services as being a full location, living, breathing, and you can close the entire cargo selling loop here. Refinery and shops and other improvements will be added before it's brought into game. Nyx will be releasing after Pyro, but they didn't have any hard dates. They're planning to have the standard locations in an asteroid called Municipal Works, and then a second location called The Depths. You will access the municipal locations from the main level, and then the depths are basically the sewers, like a sewer level below. Instance areas in the depths allow the developers to create an evolving set of challenging missions to keep the game fresh throughout its lifespan. Ian had some demos of what the levels might do. After performing several missions in this area, you will achieve enough experience to access the next level, level 2, and on to level 3, and then deeper. Each time you achieve completion, you get a harder mission and better rewards. And this is being called progression-based content. And then Ian announced the next system by name, Castra. During work up to a human and Xi'an war, the Perry line marked the border, the neutral zone if you will, or a no-fly zone, which was issued to civilians. This is where war would be waged, and Castra was the key location. War never happened, and we have peace with the Xi'an. Castra 1 is dead and coreless, being too close to the sun. It was used as a bullet sponge for weapons testing, cratered, highly toxic, and very prone to storms. It's said that there's going to be some unique minables there, but high risk, high reward, right? Castra 2, known as Cascom, it was a military staging area that now has trade and tourism. To access it, they hinted that you might need to be a citizen, truly alien landscapes. The Sherman Landing Zone is the core installation. It's still in pre-production, but they had a really nice video previs to set the scale. You could really see the improvements in ray tracing and cloud tech in the engine for this one. It was nice to finally see the landscape that's not possible on Earth. This is a space game after all, and we all have the desire to see a little bit of extreme topology. Sherman seems to be built as if it's a tuning fork stuck in a box, and that box is stuck into the mountain. Massive and dotted with hangars and docking, you can see the military presence with building-sized turrets that were said to be decommissioned. The video is pretty exciting, and once again, I'm going to piece it all together in its entirety and place it at the end of the video. Sherman had to be built huge because it was where the bulk of the military buildup was stationed leading up to the possible war. The left side was said to be a logistical yard, which is now industrial. The right side was said to be the barracks, which is now commercial and habitation. Something there for everyone. It looks sick. I can't wait to see it in person. That's it. If you like the breakdown format and got something out of it, please share with a friend or orgmate. Fly safe. Day 2, first panel, which was basically panel 6 if you don't consider the Squadron 42 demo as an actual panel. Here's what you need to know. Crafting is all about you making the universe yours. You will be able to craft almost anything if you have the parts and the tools required. Crafting is the drive to harvest and gather. Crafting is how you can build. Crafting is how you will upgrade. They spoke about how hand-collected mining has some unique materials that may only be collected in this manner, and this is also true with buggy or vehicle mining, and this will add a little bit of diversity to the universe. Collecting is only the start. Using the refinery will result in better or higher quality base materials. You can be the best crafter in the universe, relying on others to be the best gatherers or the best refiners. They spoke about how blueprints are the base to all refining and crafting. They can be bought, looted, found, and by other means. They're adding a quality grade to all materials. For example, you will not be able to craft a legendary grade item with low quality materials. And rare materials at a high quality will be specifically hard to find. Item stats are being added. An item made of higher quality materials will have higher stats, and the higher stats will have better overall performance. This could be durability, rate of fire, accuracy, recoil in a gun, for example. All items can also be upgraded a tier, and this will also boost the stats. Upgrades Upgrading with a lower quality material may not be possible and might not even be desirable. There are 3 tiers in an upgrade path, and then they announced that vehicles can also be upgraded, but they will have 5 levels. Vehicles that have been bought in store would seem to be delivered as a base that could be upgraded. Building a ship will take more time than if it were stolen and upgraded. Whatever the part is, having a higher tier will make it work better. Then we got a breakdown of the entire crafting loop. You acquire a blueprint, they're digital, so once they're claimed, it's yours. Cannot be stolen, traded, or removed. You can research or grind for better blueprints, unlocking more desirable versions of the same item. If you find a high-end blueprint, you'll automatically be able to make the lower tier items. Knowing what you need will arm you with the shopping list of resources that you need to find or collect. Refining has blueprints as well. Just like smelting, you have raw ore and some other catalyst or material that'll improve the output somehow, either the volume or the quality. With the plant and material, you'll need a crafting machine. This ranges in sizes and capabilities, and of course they also have tiers. There's a nutrition, chemical, and item fabricator. Crafting is the core of base building, just with larger machines. The land must be claimed, and then launching a survey drone provides the structure mode, which is an aerial view to facilitate placement. Buildings will take time and resource. Pallets of resources are depleted automatically, and one would assume that production will halt if there's a lack of a particular resource temporarily. With a building placed in the demo, another player brought resources and then built a small fabricator in the building, allowing them to furnish it. Buildings can degrade and the fuses will need to be replaced periodically. Buildings need power, which comes from another structure. These are the mechanics that we're mostly familiar with this type of game: build, service, and maintain. Construction Gravlev cart is small enough to fit in a cutter, and with that you survey, claim, and then build, all with the one cart. To help guide the placement, you will see a wireframe, and then you need to ensure that you have the correct resources, and then you hit build. Drones will print the building, collecting the resources and going back and forth. New buildings have 2 states, powered and unpowered. Buildings have tiers, quality, and can be upgraded. Pimp the internal space how you like. By choosing differently, you can make the same space into an infirmary, a workshop, a store, or a living room. You're able to maglock your items against unwanted visitors, re-imaging your space, or perhaps stealing your furniture items. We were shown the next larger scale of buildings, a crane structure to build larger structures. You place this over a rich deposit of resources and then construct structures to mine them. Mined items need to be refined, which would be the next building that you would want to build. Buildings built in this manner would take several days to complete. The base owner can provide access to parts of the base at various permission levels. After building a ship fabricator, they were able to build a ship, and naturally there would be storage, shops, living spaces for your friends or orc mates. They then ended by putting a picture of how bases might be spread out all over the surface of a planet, and then they ended by reminding us that depending on the location, you may have to pay taxes for protection, and or protection may simply not be a thing in the area that you decide to build in because it's uncontrolled space. That's it.
John and Ben were on deck to talk about vehicles. This was a 37-minute panel, and being on site, I can really tell you that people love ships and buggies. There were so many woos. Construction Gravlab was demonstrated in the last segment, but we need larger, so they have the need to go larger. Buildings and drones fall into 4 classes, from small, medium, large, and extra large. To build large, you need at least a large drone, but a large drone would build a small structure more quickly. They showed off the CSV, or Construction Support Vehicle, from Argo, and this would build medium. The CSV FM fabrication module can enter a Cuddy Black and has 2 medium drones plus 4 SCU. The CVS SM supply module carries more cargo, and that's designed to support the FM. The next size up is the Star Lancer family, larger than the Lancer in general. BLD for building, TAC for some defenses, I'm sure that means tactical. Max like the Lancer Max, larger cargo spaces. The BLD has a drone control center and 2 large drones per side for a total of 4. There's 16 SCU of supplies, and they are purposefully including space into the gameplay so that they can operate independently for a period of time without extra support. So that would be like buying a printer and not having ink cartridges in the box. What a bummer. The BLD also has more cargo space in the rear. The TAC trades industry for a pair of man-size 5 turrets and larger shields. The 96 SCU in the back. It has a hangar on top that would be good for a Fury. 2-story layout, drop seat section, tier 3 medical beds, habitation, and mess areas. The Max trades a lot of the other features for a maximum cargo of 224 split between the main and the ramp areas. The sides open up for easy access, and it's a pretty cool ship that they said would be ready for IAE this year. And now, The extra large drones are found only on the Pioneer, and it has 4 of them. There have been many updates to the concept after a couple changes in how the game loop would work. The arm is gone, the cargo was optimized, the landing pad was optimized. Retained are the medical, crafting, refinery support, and it's still meant to be the cornerstone of the crafting mechanic. You'll be able to craft small ships and vehicles from its 1,000 SCU of cargo space. They confirmed that they're beginning work on this ship despite no promises as to when it will be released. They did say that they didn't expect this ship to be released with base building initially. They then did a slideshow of the ship silhouettes from last year, a total of 12. They did release 6 of the 12, and they would like to release the next 5 as soon as possible. And then we were shown even more silhouettes like last year, but for this year, and they said that these are things that are being worked on by the team. That's it. The last panel, usually called the Keynote. Please do me a solid and share these with your friends or orgmates who may not know as much as you do about Star Citizen. Here's what you need to know. Chris began by saying that yesterday, after a somewhat glitchy Squadron 42 playthrough, Rich went back and reworked all of it and re-recorded all of it without any issues. He was very happy. Chris confirmed what we know, that this is a game and it's going to be soft launched with no specific date on when they announce it, and just say, yep, it's finished and released. 1.0 is the target release, where we would have no universe wipes and the basic features that would be called a minimum viable product. Many years ago, I did a video on this subject. It's linked up now. Take a look to see how accurate I was back then and see how well or not well CIG has been making progress. Chris confirmed that fishing was not going to be in the 1.0 list, but maybe shortly after. Rich Tyrer, senior game designer for both games, was next. Rich explained that Star Citizen is a wide range of games that would appeal to many types of gamers, and to achieve this, they would need to focus on a wide range of gameplay that is all linked together. Between 4.0 and 1.0, there was no specific time frame mentioned. 1.0 would be polished and no longer be referred to as a game in development. Would have some finished gameplay loops, and as I said, no resets. 100 systems at launch was a stretch goal, and Rich said that because of the scope and scale of this game has grown, it would not hit that mark, nor were they trying to. The old metric had fewer than 96 points of interest in an entire star system, and now there are thousands. He went on to say that currently there's no real way for a new player to simply know how to do things. They would have to do research or be shown by another player. Mining, salvage, bounty, courier, hauler, and merc were the types of jobs on the list, and I imagine that these are going to be the ones that are releasing full at 1.0. So they're adding a main storyline and story system to the PU within those fields. You're going to be coached on how to play the game, and you'll be working for various guilds to build up a reputation as you learn. Think of it this way. You're given a little mission, and it kind of coaches you on what ship you need to do and where you need to go. And after doing that, you can do it yourself. So you can choose to not do these stories, but eventually you might think that you need to gain better access to the game. The idea of citizenship, that opens up areas that you have access to, such as land ownership. 1.0 will launch with 5 systems: Stanton, Pyro, Nyx, Castra, and Terra. Each system will be fully realized, and along with the main story, they plan to add a set of system-based stories. Guilds tie the job types together, and you grow reputation and skill by doing missions here. They want to remove the missions from the Mobiglass, so you'll need to physically be called or go up to an NPC, a mission giver if you will. They spoke about some guilds. The URW, or United Resource Workers, is an industrial guild. The ITG, or Interstellar Transport Guild, is a cargo hauling guild. The ISF, or Imperial Sports Federation, is your racing guild. The AOS is the Academy of Sciences. Wonder what they do. And for combat, there are council and mercenary guilds, but these are set against each other on different sides of the law. Joining one will automatically make you the enemy of the other. Rich came back to speak about the economy, and this might have been part of what was called subsumption in the past. Star Sim seems to be what this is now called. And no, I don't think that they just flushed years and years of what Tony was designing. I believe that all of that just became part of this. Feel free to go and complain on Reddit if you disagree with me. Counterinflation will be controlled by taxes and insurance. Loss matters in Star Citizen. Losing your life or your ship should have a real cost. They're adding 3 levels of insurance. There's chassis and components, and then chassis, components, and decorations. Based on wear and age, insurance will pay out credits. But based on wear and age, if you also have a warranty on this ship, it'll output a ship instead. All ships bought on the Pledge store will have insurance and warranty. If you buy a ship in-game, you're going to need to pay a little bit more for those two things. Claim timers are not going away, but they will be proportional to the crafting timers. You're going to be provided a shuttle ship as a loaner to go collect your ship, and then the shuttle will be removed. Time in claiming ships will vary based on the size. Starter ships have practically no cooldown, and as you go up in size, the timers will become longer. They're planning to set out a series of guides to facilitate you to know how to get what you want. For example, you want to build a Mark II Hornet. You need to unlock the blueprint by doing some combat in a smaller ship to get the reputation. And then you're going to need the parts by mining, and that'll provide you the rep and credits. By doing it this way, the Hornet becomes its own little game loop between sandbox and a soft framework. Rich then started to break down the endgame content because after all of these stories are done and completed, what's left? The more hardcore player might quickly blip through all of that and then want more. Instanced content are fleet battles that'll output military blueprint, strategic missions, FPS operations, and these are all based in StarSim. Events are going to be spawned in automatically based on the proportions of the situation. This endgame is all about having something to do with all of the things that you've acquired. Rich broke down secure and non-secure systems. If you're attacked in security, holding out for a short time will allow the security to assist. Owned ships that are stolen can be marked by you as such. The stolen ship will eventually become unusable, and then salvage is basically the only option for the person that stole the ship. You can, with the correct reputation, disable this feature and then rebadge the ship, but at a cost. You will not be able to tow that ship through a regular jump point because you'll pop up. You'll be detected. In speaking about bases, the base owner can, depending on the location, have protection. If that base is located in a lawless location, there are still planetary base shields and turrets for protection. These can be attacked by others in other means, and this is unlike what you might find in a secure system. Station warfare was the next topic. The planetary shield tech is tied to a payment of seal token payments. Larger structures will pay out tokens, and these can be converted into shield coverage. There will never be enough coverage to protect everybody, so it's up to you to get the most seal tokens you can or risk being without defenses. At the halfway mark of this keynote, we went back to the bases that were being built on Pyro in the last one. An org base is the logical place to operate large-scale activities from, but now I guess we're going into orbit. Why be limited to the surface when you can build, operate, and live from your own station? Such a location will require vast time and resources. If you wish to build this, you're going to need to build a supply bay, and that can only be built from a Pioneer. This first location was described to be somewhat like a grav cart with its drones and all of those things, but obviously at a much larger scale and tailored to building the remainder of the station. The horizontally stacked cargo grid will allow you to bring all of the resources that you need, and they can be delivered in bulk. Drop after drop keeps the construction going. The entire org is able to pitch in and help. The supply bay will eventually become embedded within the structure as the base continues to expand. The bridge of the space station is obviously where you control permissions and all of the systems. The observation lets you do that. Observe. The hangar deck is going to let you build pads and hangars. Many of these decks can be connected by roads, omitting the need for elevators. Interior spaces can be expanded if the interior systems are upgraded to support it. Hardpoints can be used for resource gathering or for defense. There's a second type of hardpoint which allows you to build entire wings from your space station. Cargo, refinery, hangar wings were all teased. Decals and paints will be options. The upper and lower sides can be further customized. The lower side can support the flight deck module, which will be a great location for the on-call fighter wing for defense. If you have something nice, there's always going to be someone out there who wants to take it from you. Orgs can use that space as an offensive wing staging area, but will also more likely than not be where the majority of the org wealth is. They showed off the dry dock with the intent to build very, very large ships, and they teased that thing containing a Bengal. Right? And then they zoomed out even further, showing a network of stations that were all tied together. The interior of the space stations can be upgraded with turrets, and in closing they said that this is seen as the end state goal for orgs and Star Citizen, the universe that'll cater to all players. This was the last panel for the entire event. They never indicated any time frame for any of this. They never indicated how far along they were with any of these plans, and that is not meant to sound negative. I just felt that it was quite important to point that out. I am planning to break down the Squadron 42 trailer with some comments that I had, and I'm planning to break down also my trip to Manchester. The new house is progressing really well. The new studio is pretty much 2,700 square feet, and this build is taking up a significant amount of time, and it's proven to be quite a distraction. I will update you on that also soon. That's it. Thank you very much for Hello YouTubers, this is the noobifier. I'm going to preface the entire video. Any thoughts or comments expressed in this video are just that, thoughts and comments. As a person who saw this demo first person at Manchester, it was clear that there has been what was promised last year, which is polish. There was more than 1 year's worth of polish on display, so I am and I will continue to be a Star Citizen #1 fan. I cannot wait to play Squadron 42 despite the first act being basically spoiled and of course, the release date. Trust me, the entirety of my entire criticism is just a sliver from a whole. The dialogue on the whole makes sense. The characters mostly say and mostly behave exactly how you'd expect them based on the situation. And as a viewer to the channel, I welcome you to your own thoughts about my thoughts. Tell me what you're thinking, but can you please maintain a semblance of decorum in the comments section? Please and thank you. We begin. My own background is relevant to the video. I became a member of the Canadian Army in 1992 and I remained there until 2022. When watching any science fiction, action, or military movie with anyone who is or has spent time in service, there's usually a periodic mumble, rumble, seat adjustment, or even a comment. And if you don't believe me, try watching Platoon or Full Metal Jacket with an infantryman or woman. Try watching Fury, The Beast, or hell, for that matter, try watching the third act of Rambo Part 3 with an armored crewman. You know that scene where Rambo is the only person in a Russian T-72 tank, driving, gunning, and everything from one chair. Soldiers can smell when something's off. Stolen valor is sometimes on the news, and as a soldier, it's actually super easy to detect it. You can see their headdress is off, their pants are bloused improperly, they may not be wearing the right t-shirt, their ribbons don't match their age, or other things on the uniform. Where did you go to basic? What's your trade? When did you join? The house of cards starts to fall, and the bullshit is on full display. There are rules and protocol to follow, but there is culture, and this culture becomes how you dress, how you speak, and over time, somewhat how you think. Small things like the weather don't bother you anymore, but witnessing insubordination, bucking, or disrespect really does strike a nerve. And I suppose my point here is that there's a continuity in the profession of arms. Don't worry, I'm going to end on a specific point to the narrative within Squadron 42. Soldiers always operate within a rank structure and respect is commanded by its leaders. There are a lot of different ways to lead, which is called your leadership style. Some leaders are dead serious all the time and others operate with a twang of sarcasm to break the tension, but they all always switch on when the time comes. When watching Squadron 42, I noticed some actions or narrative that were just a little bit off, things that wouldn't be said and things that wouldn't have been accepted, things that would have landed a person in the brig regardless of the situation. Movies and games of this caliber usually have a person on staff who advises or coaches. Full Metal Jacket is a classic example where Arlie Emmy was hired as a military advisor, but he was so good that they fired the other guy and made him the drill sergeant for the movie. It was estimated that over 75% of his dialogue was actually unscripted, and it is 100% believable because, as I said, it's hard to fake being a soldier. Command may be given to an individual, but it's up to that individual to foster, preserve, and keep it. There's a constant in service that the leader never releases control, and the leader never allows those under their command to undermine their command or take it from them. So let's break down the demo. Right at the start, I love the intro with Henry Cavill. It was a little bit campy and made me think very much of the recruiting videos that you might see in World War II. Also, all of the radio banter back and forth sounded great. What's your sit rep is exactly how someone asks another, how are you doing, over the radio. You, the main character, are recording a short message before the big battle. Captain McLaren sneaks up behind the corporal and comments on something about the view. The corporal snaps to attention, and in general, all of this interaction works very well. The banter back and forth between you and your captain is good, and she never breaks character. A good leader knows their troops, even if there are hundreds of them. She offers encouragement to you, the corporal, before your second application to flight training. You move on and make your way to the turrets. The other turret gunners razz your character for not having your helmet. You guys are all the same rank. You'd probably tell them to F off, but it sounds like you're pretty new to this group, so it's fine. You would let it slide. There's a general announcement following a whistle. The crew is ordered to alert, and this works very well. It's normal and good for the captain to personally take these announcements during a main watch. Silent times or second shift, this type of thing might come from the XO, but this is all part of team cohesion, trust building in the leadership, and in general, a good sense of purpose. Some may think that it sounds like you're drinking the Kool-Aid, but that order needs to come from the leader directly, and it has a highly positive effect on the team, especially if that leader is well liked. A good leader can make you more okay with risking your life to achieve their mission. The petty officer or PO in charge of the turret battery speaks like a senior NCO. And yes, this is a real thing, the crusty warrant officer, and it's a very nice touch. He's a little bit more blunt and a lot harder on the corporal, only offering praise in the smallest of doses. The PO was probably a turret gunner 10 years ago, and he would be very hard to impress. The turret gunners were told to stop talking over comms, and then one of them had to have the last word. The PO threatened a mild punishment if the chatter didn't stop. Again, all of this was great and made me feel like I was on board. Admiral Bishop gave a rousing speech. He explained the danger in simple terms. He explained what the cost of failure would be, and then he proclaimed that there would be victory because they had no choice. Everyone would die unless they were successful. Really dramatic, but under the circumstances, the speech was good and would totally pump the troops up. We then cut over to Captain Wade and the Admiral, who are far back from the rest of the bridge crew, and they trade words and banter easily without using ranks or title. This is great and very believable. They are quite close in rank. There will be trust and respect, possibly even some friendship after working together for so long. The enemy forms up across the fleet, and Captain Wade puts the ship to weapons ready. He's the captain of the ship, and the Admiral is in charge of the fleet. Technically, by rank, the Admiral is the owner of the ship, but I was happy to see that the Admiral never issued orders directly to the bridge crew, passages to be done in this manner as to not undermine the captain's command. Bishop holds fire until the Vandal take the first shot, and this is a bit of a movie trope where the good guys wait to return fire. Normally, yeah, this is just stupid. You would never give any enemy any time to get themselves more sorted out. They're already a massive threat, and you're already going to lose a bunch of people to them. Why would you let them deploy another 20,000 fighters into nice, tidy wings? You would capitalize on any advantage to kill the enemy better or sooner. So as soon as they would be in range of your furthest weapon, the shots would be happening. It would look like the 4th of July all over, but I suppose that it works to build tension for the narrative. Wave after wave, you're to take out enemy ships from your turret, and then we're back on the bridge for more story. The Admiral issues some commands to reposition parts of the fleet. The Scimitar is pushed to the front to test the enemy. He pushes another pair of ships to a different location, and this is what I spoke about before, where the team will follow orders even if they're being put into harm's way. Branches of the military are the only part of the entire government who abide by what is called unlimited liability. Firefighters, police, and such are all heroic on a daily basis, but the military oath comes with it a special clause. A firefighter will volunteer to run into a fire as part of their job, but they cannot be ordered into it. Members of the military, however, can be repeatedly ordered into situations which could result in their death. They volunteered for this, and it's seen as treason if you disobey. There are some limitations, however. And this little bit will be important later in the demo. Captain McLaren follows up the Admiral's speech with her own orders, and this is exactly what would happen to quickly bring the entire ship up to speed and explain what they are supposed to do, which is push forward to cover the flagship to protect Bishop. Quick and concise, and then your PO immediately reinforces that with your specific immediate mission as the turret gunner, which is to operate the turrets and kill all of the bad guys. The Vandals then fire what is basically a doomsday beam against a close-by capital ship. The crew on the bridge near the Admiral are obviously shocked, but in general remain cool. Captain Wade immediately issues an order for search and rescue to find any survivors. This is both a psychological and a practical order. The profession of arms will risk to achieve the mission, and I said troops will normally work better if their leader is generally liked. But knowing that when you risk yourself, the rest of the team will be willing to make every effort to come get you also goes a long way. That order from Captain Wade would have been broadcast across the entire command net, which would keep everyone updated that not only we had combat operations ongoing, but also to be aware of a SAR team operating near the lost ship. Captain Wade then commented to Admiral Bishop that this thing is chewing us up, but now he adds the word "sir" to the end of his sentence because they're now standing in the middle of the junior officers on the bridge. We get to my first minor nitpick. Captain Wade is issuing an order to his weapons officer on the bridge of not only his ship, but the flagship with the Admiral immediately there. This would never usually be a junior officer's position. This is the weapons officer, and that person would be on board, would providing solutions in this battle. It's that person's entire function on that ship and something that they would have done for years. So when Captain Wade orders the weapons officer for a firing solution on the King ship, the weapons officer, instead of doing what is ordered, offers a quick question back instead. Is that even going to have any effect or something like that? I like Captain Wade, and that person is well written and performed very well. Captain Wade is forced to take time to reinforce his order to that weapons officer. I loved the fact that Captain Wade never raised his voice and he took the time to speak because at his rank and position, this is exactly what I would expect. This is the first and last freebie from the captain. It's critical that the captain maintains control over his frustration. The rest of your crew is looking to you to get them through the battle, and that would not be achieved if you're off yelling at people. I suppose my observation in this case is that that weapons officer would have or should have simply said, "Yes, sir." But because of this odd interaction, I suppose that we did get to see a little bit more of who Captain Wade is as a leader, a little bit of character development, so I understand. Admiral Bishop issues orders to drop shields the next time they're struck to make it seem as if they're more heavily damaged. Captain Wade then issues all of the individual orders to his bridge crew to achieve this, which is great positive control. Captain Wade, as I said, is written very well. His actions and effect on his crew is that of a good leader who has earned his place on the flagship. The flagship and escort take several beatings. Captain Wade then prompts the Admiral for a revised plan. The Admiral orders to stay course and hit them again, which is classic. The saying is you can't lead from the back, and the Admiral knows that he's in the most tactically significant weapons platform in the fleet, the biggest guns and the best protection. Captain Wade relays his orders to the weapons officer, who takes a total brain shit at his station, saying, they're all gonna kill us, and then basically does nothing. This is the second time that this officer has failed in the span of 3 minutes. Captain Wade pushes that person aside and fires the weapons himself and continues to occupy that station. Big guns shooting on big ship is exactly what the Admiral ordered, and this weapons officer would have been immediately dressed down by the captain and be ordered to stand near the back of the bridge waiting for security. That person would have instantly been kicked out of their chair, removed from their post, and escorted by security, then put in a cell, and if everyone survived the battle, that person would have been investigated and would be court-martialed for putting an entire solar system at risk, probably jailed or reassigned. Everyone has a role, and the entire command structure demands orders to be executed without hesitation. Captain Wade continues to man the weapons for the remainder of the battle, leaving the weapons officer to feel like a total knob in his stupid blue chair, which was also a satisfying end state for him and for me. We got the main attack from Squadron 42, led by Henry Cavill's character. All of this dialogue was on point. The plan evolved as the situation changed. The Retaliator pilot commented that their torpedoes would probably have minimal effect on the target. The team then adjusted on the fly and were ultimately successful. The Kingship fired its Doomsday weapon on the Admiral's flagship, taking out a huge chunk of the side, and I loved that the Admiral asked for a status report and Captain Wade started talking about their ship's status. The Admiral interrupted him and said, "No, I want to know the status of the Kingship." This is the difference of perspective as you go up in rank. The captain would be focused on ship, crew, and mission, but the Admiral is playing with a completely different set of requirements. He's trying to save the solar system, so yeah, his focus would be more focused on inflicting maximum damage, and this little bit made me smile. Captain Wade reported that the shields on the flagship were in fact down, and that shitty weasel of a weapons officer had the balls and audacity to cheer and celebrate from his stupid blue chair. This would have been a great opportunity for Captain Wade to sort this officer out and remind him of how much shit he was actually in. All the captain would need to do is make direct eye contact and say nothing. You can see how insubordination is really built into a soldier's brain, right? So we're going to move on. The Admiral told the bridge crew to settle down and focus on the battle. The Vandal make a convincing counterattack and maximize the confusion by performing some boarding operations. The Kingship makes a run to ram the flagship, and it's unavoidable, and that gives the Admiral an opportunity to tell the bridge crew they can evacuate or volunteer to remain. And this is good for the narrative as it reinforces how likely it is that they'll be dead. But he would probably never issue this order. Unlimited liability is what we all sign up for, as I explained, and he actually needs 100% of what's left of his ship and as much of his crew as he can get. Captain Wade continues to man the weapons station, leaving the weapons officer to continue to feel useless off to the side, and this is why usually that person would be escorted to jail, even in a full-blown battle. With everything everywhere blowing up, we're then transported back to our player, the turret gunner. The ship is toast. People are dead or dying, and it's up to you to repel a Vandal boarding party. The sequence is really good, and it makes you fear and respect the Vandal. For the next 20 minutes, you fight them, you fight some fires, you fight space, you fight zero-G push-pull mechanics, and then you arrive at the bridge. The only person on the bridge is your captain, Captain McLaren, and she has the drop on you with a fully loaded SMG. Realizing that you're part of the crew, she explains, "I thought I was the only one left," and then casually says, "Look, I need you to help with something. The ship has no power. The captain will restore the power and you will pilot the ship." This little bit of loose dialogue removed me and my immersion a little bit, and it reminds me that I was in Hollywood and not on an actual ship. The captain of the ship is convinced that her entire crew is dead and that the ship is a total loss. There's no way her guard would be down and that her tone to a corporal would be so casual. She is clearly not given up. Years of service would kick in, her spoken words would be orders directed to achieve what needs to be done. Her sentences would have all ended with the word corporal, and this is not a really big deal, but I do feel that the writing somewhat fails the actor. By changing this a little bit, it would have seemed more authentic. The bridge is about to be attacked by an 8-foot-tall assault party. The captain receives a direct call from the admiral questioning them and ordering them to fall back as ordered. She quickly explains how totally effed up the ship is, how everyone is dead, and that she plans to crash all 10 million tons of it into the enemy. The admiral reluctantly accepts, but he does reinforce that he needs them to make every effort to get to an escape pod. And then he simply uses her first name, saying Rachel. This was so powerful. By breaking rank, he gets her full attention immediately. This break in character over the radio would be very jarring for her. It would stick and linger in her brain, reinforcing how important her survival is to him. Bishop is written and acted so well, and this super tiny detail fully locked me into the story. Captain McLaren then explains her goals to your character and issues you a new set of tasks, which is to take the SMG and defend her so that she can achieve her goals. She ends with "Go now," which is a much better and more believable end to an interaction. The shit has totally hit the fan and the bridge is assaulted. Your captain takes a fatal wound and passes a final order over to you to get to the escape pod. Your character in this case chooses to disobey and you both make it into an escape pod with seconds to spare, and then we fade to black. So, overall, really good. Thoughtful and deliberate script. Characters that mostly act and speak as expected in the situation, and I guess I'm still pretty upset with that weapons officer. He should have been sorted out on the spot and launched into a prison cell somewhere. Some of the dialogue for Captain McLaren should have been a little bit tighter, but I think that Gillian Anderson is a great actor and provided a great, strong lead performance. As I come to the end, we will say that Hollywood seems to be hit or miss lately. The new Penguin show, for example, on HBO is a great example of great writing combined with a great story executed by great talent. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, Disney has had trouble hiring writers who understand the basic building blocks of good storytelling. And that's as far as I'm going to go into that. If the rest of Squadron 42 is constructed with this level of care in the story, then I'm very happy and super excited to enjoy it for at least a couple playthroughs. Following the development of these two games over the years is a roller coaster of emotions, but at least this very important aspect receives a gold star and chef's kiss seal of approval from me. Comment your comments in the comments. If you would like to do a react to this video, please feel free. I will never copy strike any other content creator ever. We should all be allowed and safe to explore content in our own way. Please share this and continue to watch the channel from time to time. I hope you enjoyed it. Fly safe.